Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with a review of the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4. Believe it or not, we have reached the fourth version of the Samsung foldable phone, and now they claim it's a total upgrade from the past generations. Starting with the crease, going to the main camera, and obviously the brand new Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 processor. Now, it's definitely not a cheap device at around $1,800, and we're here to show you everything that makes it special. Okay, so first things first, I should mention it inaugurates the Gorilla Glass Victus Plus protection on the front and the back side. We also have here a hue which is closer to petrol blue or something like that, but the actual color is supposed to be some sort of green. Now, the handset here has IPX8 certification, which means it's water resistant up to 1.5 meters up to 30 meters. Aside from the Gorilla Glass Victus thing, we also get metal here. It's an aluminum frame, armor aluminum, this time more resilient to scratches and also apparently also drops. The weight has decreased compared to the predecessor by 8 grams. This baby weighs 263 grams. When unfolded, it measures 6.3 millimeters in thickness, which is not exactly close to the 5.4 millimeters of the Huawei Mate XS2 and the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2. Now, at the same time, you should probably know that the handset here provides a 2.7 millimeter wider cover display, and at the same time, it's also 3.1 millimeter shorter than its predecessor. The hinge is 1.2 millimeter thinner, and everything has a flatter frame all around for improved grip. Now, the hues that the device is available in are phantom black, green, and a sort of beige. And once again, the hue we have here is definitely closer to blue than green. Now, all in all, to be honest, it's very much the same as the Z Fold 3 if you're not a connoisseur. Otherwise, you start to notice some changes, particularly the flatter frame, and the, well, thing is that you will be able to scuff the metal area around the camera. By the way, they kept the very same camera design of the predecessor, and somehow, even though the measurements look pretty similar screen-wise, they did also make the bezels around the screen slightly smaller. Okay, I think we're done with the design. I have to say that the grip is excellent in both open and closed format, and the build is very solid. We have plastic protection for the foldable screen, in case you're wondering. They haven't invented glass which may protect a foldable piece like this. And now it's time, I think, to discuss the foldable screen and, well, basically all the screens. Now, the panel you're seeing here, this one is the internal 7.6-inch Dynamic AMOLED 2X screen with 2176 over 1812 pixel resolution. Now, it offers 120 Hz refresh rate and the HDR10 plus support, and also the promise of 1200 nits. Interesting fact, the area of the screen is 183.2 centimeters square, while the predecessor had 179.9 centimeters square, so it actually increased on account of the narrower bezels. That's the internal screen, and the fold on the middle is supposed to be less visible. You can feel it with your finger here. You'll definitely see it when you start to fold the device, but when it's flat, it's much better hidden now. Now, the cover screen, let's talk about it. The same 6.2-inch diagonal of the predecessor, however, once again, it's slightly larger by simply messing around with the bezels. Well, at least apparently. The experience itself will be shown in a minute as we play a test video which we prepare for you. We start with the external screen. We have these ugly black bands around it, but rest assured you can do this. Now, the punch hole may appear a bit big, and that's what the experience is like. It's a very bright panel with wide view angles, excellent contrast in the sunlight, and very vivid colors. And now we move to the main star of the show, the main attraction. People may be scared by this square format, but as you can see, you can definitely feel the screen. You do have black bezels, but you also have the ability of zooming in even though you're losing parts of the image. I would recommend you actually use the device in landscape mode, which makes for a more natural viewing. Once again, a very bright, very crisp panel here. You can definitely spot the under-screen camera if you look closely at this gray dot here. And once again, a pretty satisfying viewing experience, which is completed by an excellent color calibration, wide angles, and very solid contrast. Okay, we're pretty done with the video test. And I have to say that on a black background, the fold is a bit more visible than on a whiter background. Now, when it comes to tests, we did those and let's see what came out. So we start with the screen brightness. The main screen brightness is 524 lux units, which is, I would say, pretty solid. And I'm just talking about the regular option of the screen. Just let me turn it down a little bit. When I say regular, I mean the screen without the extra brightness mode. And with this 524 lux, once again achieved for the main screen, this means that we were able to surpass the Galaxy Z Fold 3, which is definitely an evolution, but we're below the Huawei Mate XS2 and the Oppo Find N. Now for the external screen, the secondary one, we achieved 564 lux units, which as far as foldables go is beaten by the Oppo Find N, but it beats the predecessors Galaxy Z Fold 2 and Z Fold 3. We also did another measurement. There's a special option in the settings which lets you turn the screen all the way up. It's called extra brightness and achieves a crazy 970 lux, the brightest phone we've ever tested. Up until now, the Galaxy S22 Plus achieved around 880 or so lux, so this can become the brightest phone ever with extra brightness mode. There are quite a few settings for the panel here, including some useful ones related to scaling apps, but the core remain those: brightness, adaptive brightness, motion smoothness, which is basically your refresh rate. Adaptive involves 120 Hz. There's also the colors, vivid and natural, and a few more which you'll find in a text review. Now we go inside the phone, and finally the AIDA app recognizes the CPU. I've shown you some reviews like the Nubia phone unboxing or the OnePlus 10T, where we saw the CPU as the 8 Gen 1. Now it's recognized as the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. It's not alone this 4nm TSMC CPU, it's accompanied by 12 gigs of LPDDR5 RAM and half a terabyte of storage. Basically 512 gigabytes, no microSD and also no lag unless you count the moment after resetting the device. After rebooting, there's a short time, a loading window which says starting apps. Other than that, I had zero problems with the device's performance, and also I could run games fine. However, the more intensive games may run into some trouble. So if you play, for example, something like, I don't know, Apex Legends Mobile for more than 30 minutes, some hit may appear, which is to be expected when you have such a slim waistline, but it's not as bad as the Huawei Mate XS2. Now let's talk about benchmarks. Now, as far as benchmarks are concerned, we're on the 11th spot in Antutu 9, surpassing the likes of Galaxy S22 Plus and OnePlus 10 Pro, but scoring below the Galaxy S22 Ultra and the Vivo X80 Pro. Now we go to Geekbench 5 in the multi-core subtest, just above the Asus ROG Phone 5 Pro and above the Galaxy S22 Ultra. We also beat the foldable Oppo Find N. We scored below the Asus ROG Phone 6 Pro and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Just so you know, in Antutu 8 we scored the 13th, just above the Galaxy S22 Plus and S22 Ultra, and basically we're often in top 15 or even top 10. In 3D Mark, the most relevant test remains Wildlife Extreme, and as you can see, we're on the 15th spot, just above the Galaxy S22 Plus and the Motorola Edge 30 Pro. Still, there are other more powerful phones like the new Zenfone 9 and OnePlus 10T with the very same CPU inside. Now, as far as the temperature is concerned, I'm going to show you something here. This is Antutu 9, and when it showed us the result, it also showed us the temperature evolution from 34 degrees Celsius to 42 degrees Celsius as the test progressed. It's a bit hot, but I've seen hotter before, so heat management is decent on this device. Now we go further and discuss the battery. The battery doesn't seem to have changed. It's still a 4400 mAh unit, just like on the predecessor. However, I should also mention that we have 25 watt wired charging this time, 15 watt wireless charging, and even reverse charging. Basically, you can put here a pair of headphones, a watch or another phone and charge it up via wireless, reverse wireless charging. Now let's see the actual results we achieve, because we do tests and we do quite a lot of them, and they involve video playback in a loop. The first one, this is the video playback test, and actually it's not bad at all. 16 hours and 33 minutes. It's above the Z Fold 3, which had 14 hours, and the Z Fold 2 it's 12 hours and almost 13 hours actually, and it even beats the Galaxy Fold and Huawei Mate XS2. Scores below the Oppo Find N though. In PC Mark, we achieved 12 hours and 6 minutes, which is excellent, continuous usage. We beat the Z Fold 3 and it's 9 hours, and the Z Fold 2 and it's mere 8 hours. Plus, we surpassed the Huawei Mate XS2 and the Oppo Find N. Still, we're below some other phones with similar chipsets like the Galaxy, like the OnePlus 10T and also the Galaxy S22 Plus. Charging is a bit on the long side, 1 hour and 31 minutes. We did that with a 30-watt charger we had lying around because there's no charger in the box. And after 30 minutes, you should be at about 37% charge. Could have been better. When it comes to the acoustics, we don't get an audio jack, but we do get stereo speakers. There's one at the top and one at the bottom here. You may cover them when you hold the phone in landscape mode, but covering may end up amplifying the sound, not muffling it. We have here a test video opened up, and let's listen to some tunes. Okay, couple of ideas. Excellent bass, and I was particularly impressed by the high notes achieved by these speakers. We also have Dolby Atmos settings, Dolby Atmos for games, an equalizer. It's an all-rounder. I'm very happy with it. The only minus being the strong vibration of the case while you output maximum volume. Excellent bass, excellent voices, excellent high notes, with the high notes being the high point of the experience here. When it comes to the volume, we achieved 79.4 decibels. The top speaker when we use the special acoustic sample, and at the bottom speaker we achieved 81.4 decibels. Not the highest values around, but it's good enough to surpass the likes of the Galaxy S21 Fan Edition and the Huawei P50 Pocket. It's below the Galaxy Z Fold 3 and the Oppo Find N. The games, the video gaming, took us to 94.3 decibels. I've seen better, to be honest, but in real life it feels louder. It surpasses Huawei Mate XS2 though and the Galaxy Z Fold 3, but it surpasses Huawei Mate XS2 and the Galaxy Z Flip 3, but it stays below the Z Fold 3, Z Fold 2 and Oppo Find N. I think we're pretty much done with the acoustics. I'm pretty impressed by them, so let's talk cameras. First of all, selfie cameras. We got the one here, which you can see, the 10 megapixel selfie shooter, and we got the under display camera, which I'm pretty sure you can see here under those pixels. It's a 4 megapixel shooter like the predecessor had, so not much has changed at the front. At the back side there are changes. While the camera module may look the same and it's pretty prone to scuffs like the one we have here, well, at least when it comes to the sensors, there's an upgrade. The main one is a 50 megapixel camera with optical image stabilization. Then we have a 10 megapixel camera with telephoto abilities, optical image stabilization, 3x optical zoom, and finally 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. We're coming from a Z Fold 3 which had 3 12 megapixel cameras, which were pretty run-of-the-mill and similar to the Z Fold 2. Definitely an upgrade and quite a few modes to enjoy here. I'm talking about camera modes, which there's quite a few and you can see them here. Starting from Pro, going to Pro Video, Single Take, Night, Food, Panorama, Super Slow-Mo, Slow-Mo, Hyperlapse, Portrait Video and Director's View. And then we also have Portrait, which is cool options and filters to apply. Studio ones, of course. There's also an AI feature here with scene detection, and when it comes to video, there is a super steady for your stabilization needs. And also, by the way, you can activate this feature here to see yourself. If you want to take a selfie with the main camera, you can use the cover screen for that purpose. Okay, we're about done. Time to talk about the gallery. Okay, so to get the ball rolling, let's talk about the daytime pictures, and I have to say that the green hues captured by this camera are a bit too intense for my liking. They're not very realistic, but aside from that, I would say that the color calibration is decent if you ignore the greens. Now this is a zoom test, and I would say that up to 5x things are acceptable, but you may notice some grain even after 3.5 or 4x. Following up, this is a shot with the main camera and the shot with the ultra wide camera. You can see there aren't many differences between them in clarity or colors, and there's also not a bit distortion of the ultra wide camera. Now we have several more shots with other types of colors which look quite nicely, and if you want to view them like this, you may get a better idea of what we're dealing with here. Lovely blues, and also a nice way of taking an ultra wide shot without losing too many details. Now, these are my attempts at taking macros. We don't have a dedicated macro camera, so basically close-ups, some of them a bit missed. This is the first set of selfies, and to be honest, I'm a bit underwhelmed. These are taken with the external camera. They feel like they would belong on a mid-range phone 2 years ago. And now we get into some more colors. I love this red hue here, and also lovely blue. So zero objections here, and a pretty wide dynamic range. And by the way, another zoom test. This is the regular distance, and then we start zooming in. Looks fine at 2x, 3x, and after 3x gets a bit grainy. Okay, another close-up, successful one. And one thing that I noticed here, a thing that happens pretty naturally, is, well, bokeh for objects, which is applied pretty well. Usually the camera would hesitate if it would detect the lack of a face, so finding a proper object bokeh is nice to see. Another set of selfies, these ones, if I remember correctly, should be taken with the internal camera, the one which is cut in the screen, and to be honest, they're not that bad. However, we're working with only 4 megapixels, and every once in a while, if the sun shines from a wrong direction, you'll see this ghostly glistening effect on the image, as you can see here, a slight ghost effect. Now, aside from that, I have to say that these aren't bad shots, and I feel an evolution from the last year under display camera. Some of the best captures we have here are those of flowers living their last life in August, and then we get to the bokeh shots, as usual, excellent, as we've seen on quite a few Samsung phones. So honestly, the best selfies are probably the ones with the special studio effects, which can apply here, and we also apply them to the main camera for this statue here. We messed about with the same effects using the back camera. By the way, you can use the back camera for selfies too, using that external screen. Okay, we have a lot of shots to show you, but we also have some food photos here of ribs. As usual, Samsung excels when taking photos of food. However, I would advise you skipped the AI mode, the one that finds the scenes, and you stuck with your normal mode. It's definitely a good camera if you're a food vlogger and blogger. Keep that in mind. This is a lovely curry, those were ribs, this is a lemonade, and this is a brownie with ice cream. Now, all in all, the camera feels somewhere between the Galaxy S20 Fan Edition and S21 Fan Edition, or at best the equal of the S21 Fan Edition. Doesn't exactly feel like a Galaxy S22 camera. However, we have a solid ultra-wide camera here, and the zoom has been definitely upgraded from the predecessor. Now, these were daytime shots, now we have the low light ones. My only advice is that no matter which camera you're using, be advised, please apply the night mode, because this changes the experience totally. I mean, some of the shots I've taken were missed, especially the ultra wide ones, but once you start using the night mode, you'll be very happy. For example, regular shot, pretty gray, nothing out of the ordinary. Night mode shot, which is a bit more vivid and filled with life. There's another example of this. So, for example, let's see, we had a photo with a crowd which was very blurry. This one looks like some missed shot. However, once you start applying the night mode, things get a bit more decent. One thing that the camera cannot handle is moving subjects. You can see the people here being blurry, and you can also see a bunch of cars being blurry here. So at nighttime, the camera cannot exactly handle objects in movement. However, I also captured some pretty shots. Once again, it's about 9 p.m. and this is what we're capturing. I would say one of the best nighttime photos I've taken all year. And also these ones, although this is a bit pink for my liking, as you can see the drawbacks of the ultra-wide camera, things are always fixed when you apply the night mode. However, once again, without the night mode, I'm not that impressed. I think we're about done with the photos, and I think I should say that I'm not feeling the effects of nightography as much as I did on the Galaxy S22 series. Now, when it comes to the videos, we have 24 of them, and let's get the ball rolling with the stabilization test. Okay, so this is test number 1. I'm filming in 4K in descending stairs without any sort of special steady option, and as you can see, stabilization checks out. It's applied very well. The next video is done with the steady mode, the super steady in Full HD, and once again, excellent. The resolution drops to Full HD. Sadly, you lose some details, but in the end, the crispness of the image and the focus is there. Speaking of focus, I did a focus test here, alternating between foreground and background, and while it may feel snappy, it's not exactly as snappy as a Galaxy S series device, but still pretty snappy. Now, the color calibration, well, I feel there's a bit of trouble there. As I said, for the photos, the greens are too intense and too saturated for my liking. I mean, the sky is fine and all. The clarity is flagship worthy, but that shade of green, I know it's a torrid day, 35 degrees Celsius, but still, I wanted an improved dynamic range for the vegetation. Now, if you want colors, we have this one here. This is actually the 8K video, which honestly is less poorly stabilized than I expected, since we usually see poor stabilization in 8K videos. We also have selfie videos, and this one, for example, has me applying those cool effects, the bokeh ones. And I'm playing with them here. Okay, and just so you know, some of these videos are actually taken with the main camera using the external screen. That's FYI. And let's see what else we have here with more color. We have this clip here. So if you're into details and details and frame rate, you'll be happy with the results here, but it's definitely not on par with the Galaxy S22 series. It fits somewhere in between last year and this year. To be honest, the difference between the Z Fold 3 and Z Fold 4 in filming is minimal, perhaps only in the area of stabilization and zoom, where this phone has the win. These are the daytime videos. Let's see a nighttime video. We even captured a concert, and we tried out the audio zoom. So if I kept zooming in on this guy with the guitar, I actually heard the guitar better compared to the other instruments. Hopefully we don't get a YouTube copyright strike. Okay, so the guitar definitely is amplified compared to the rest of the band. That's what the audio zoom does. This is a nighttime scenery. I'll be honest, we had a little bit more grain than I expected. It was a dark area. However, I expected a bit more clarity. Once again, not exactly on par with the Galaxy S22 series. And finally here we have a building facade, this time more lit. This is more like it, but some of the light sources are a bit amplified for my taste. So all in all, not a huge jump from the Z Fold 3 video-wise. While photo-wise, you gain in zoom, and I also feel that the selfies taken with the main camera are fantastic. Okay, we're done with the cameras, and I also find that the under display one has been upgraded slightly. I think it's time to discuss connectivity and software. So as far as connectivity is concerned, this phone can provide you with dual nano SIM card slots and one eSIM. It has 5G connectivity, Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.2, NFC, and an USB-C 3.2 port at the bottom. We also have GPS, and the calls, I would say, were pretty loud and clear. At the same time, I was going over the specification list online. I couldn't find ultra-wideband, but I guess it should be here. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so from this myriad of the tests we have here, these are the ones related to connectivity, and as far as Wi-Fi is concerned, we got up to 721 Mbps in download and 889 Mbps in upload. Once again, Wi-Fi. To be honest, the 5G was more impressive with 786 Mbps in download and 81.6 Mbps in uploads. All in all, quite fine in the connectivity department. And now we move on to the software. Now, as usual for a foldable phone, no matter what you're doing on the small screen, let's say we're in the gallery here and we're maybe watching one of the videos I've taken during the nighttime. So let's say I'm playing this video, watching it like this, enjoying it. Now, if I open up the screen, the large screen, I can transition to the video here and continue what I was doing there. The same goes for most of the apps, if not all. I'm in the Play Store, I'm checking out what the deal is with this application, checking it out, opening the screen and continuing from where I left. Applies to Google Maps, applies to the browser, applies to the Galaxy Store, and so much more. Now, one thing to remember here, this is not your average Android 12. No. It's actually Android 12L with One UI 4.1.1 on top. Android 12L was built for larger screens, foldables, and other unusual formats. Now, as you can notice, we have a taskbar here, which once you're inside an app becomes smaller and it's split in two parts. We have this part here with the vital apps and this part with the recently opened apps. Now, aside from that, with this being a foldable phone, obviously multitasking is a big deal and it's aided by this edge bar here. So I already have two instances here. You can split the screen in two, as I'm doing right now. So you can watch a video and check out our website to find a bunch of data, but you can add one more window. So for example, aside from these ones, I want to check the settings for some reason, and we have a triple window set up right now. And you can add one more in spite of these, so you can go here and if you want to do quick calculus, you can actually, let's actually replace this one here and you can externalize it as I just did. Right now we have 4 apps open on the screen, so if I'm watching a video here, I can do calculus here, I can check out the website here and mess about with connectivity here. So I actually have 4 windows open up, and I can even remember them in this setup here and keep them handy if I want to open them up, drag and drop content between them, or simply multitask. That's just one aspect of it. To the leftmost we have the feed of news. Here we have the recents. If you swipe down you can see the notifications and quick settings, which include the DeX mode, link to Windows, and a dark mode. Link to Windows means you can take phone calls from this phone to your PC. You can transfer images more easily between the PC and the phone, while the DeX mode, which you can see here, lets you connect via wireless to a monitor or TV or PC, and you can turn the phone into a desktop PC replacement. You can connect a mouse and a keyboard and use that large screen as basically a transformed experience, which turns this phone into a computer, and a new interface and a taskbar and all that jazz. Keep in mind that the phone also supports an S Pen. Sadly, we don't have that available here. We don't have that accessory available here, but we can actually simulate that. So if you go into the Notes app and have a note to take, you can definitely start writing with your finger in lieu of a pen. Something like, hello guys. And actually text recognition works fine even if your writing is horrible, as mine is usually. You can also sync up your notes, and you can continue where you left off on tablets, Samsung tablets, on laptops, and Windows PC. Now, you probably saw the virtual keyboard by now. It looks like this. It can be split in two if you want to, and these are some of its variations which are available here. Let's see if you can actually go back to the regular English good old keyboard. Okay, and aside from that, there's something else I want to show you. The flex mode, the famous flex mode. You saw it last year, but I feel it's become faster and more intuitive now. So if I'm in the camera app and I do something like this, this is actually the flex mode, where I can have the bottom part with the options and the top part with the viewfinder. We can also have the flex mode in this app here. So if I want to edit a beautiful photo, I can press this button and I can see the options at the bottom and the photo at the top. And I can actually change the angle as much as I want to. I'm no longer limited by any sort of 90-degree angle. And this even applies in the browser. You have the keyboard here and the content at the top. And also applies in YouTube, for example. I mean, if I'm in a video I like and I want to write a comment, maybe I can go to the comment section here and start writing as I'm watching the clip. That's just one example, and there are many more apps supporting this, including the Notes app. We have the keyboard here and the text above, and Microsoft Word. That's another example. Okay, so a lot of familiar stuff. I don't feel that they added anything special software-wise from the Z Fold 3, if I'm being totally honest, but feel free to correct me. Now, aside from that, the experience of a Samsung Windows Phone, we have One UI 4.1.1, we have the material hue, you can draw the colors from the wallpaper and apply them to icons. We have the brand new widgets, which you can see here, smarter and more beautiful looking widgets. We have that extra green options which appears on the screen, showing you that the camera or microphone is in use for extra privacy. We have the privacy dashboard, and you can definitely mess around the settings and tweak always on display and so much more. Now for security, I have registered my face, but I can also cover this here and unlock the phone by just hopefully properly touching the button, as I just did, and that's the fingerprint scanner placed here on the side. But once again, I'm using a tandem of the face unlock and the side placed fingerprint scanner. Now the pre-installed apps, as you can see, we have the Samsung ones. We got SmartThings to control your smart home setup. You got Samsung Health, we got Pen Up, we got good old Bixby, which can be activated. What's the weather like?
It is clear and 21 degrees right now.
There are also the Bixby routines. There are the Microsoft apps, including Office, OneDrive, LinkedIn, and Outlook. We have pre-installed Spotify, Facebook, and Netflix, and the rest I installed myself. Once again, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Rest assured, I'm not in the text review, and that's pretty much it as far as this phone is concerned. Sadly, I don't have an S Pen to also test it, but aside from the jotting down things in the Notes application, you can use its air command. You do gestures like this for back, home, recents, control the camera from a distance with a pen, and that's it. Now we have reached the end of the review, and it's time to talk about the pros and cons of the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4. The 4th generation phone, can't believe it. It's a comfy phone for sure, that's a pro. Of course, the fact that we have support for S Pen is a plus. We have the brightest screens I've ever seen on a foldable phone, which is once again a pleasant surprise. And aside from that, we have a main camera which has been upgraded, especially in the zoom department and the nighttime capture department. The selfie camera has also been slightly upgraded. I should also probably mention that the processor is a definite bump, and there's a bit less overheating than it was last year. Excellent stabilization when you're filming, solid speakers, the top and bottom one, and also solid microphones, by the way, with legit audio zoom. The night mode itself, I would say, is a bit of a killer, and I would only stick to using it when taking nighttime photos. Excellent multitasking, which have you splitting the screen as much as 4 windows with a floating one. And the battery life is possibly the biggest upgrade here, following the brightness of the screens. Those are the pros aspects of the phone. Now, let's actually access our website here. And as I do that, I'm going to tell you about the cons, because no phone is perfect, not ever. Now, on the cons side, I have to say that the changes from the Z Fold 3 are rather small, especially in the design department. They say that the crease of the screen is less visible. I'll confirm it, but the average user won't sense the difference. We don't have fast charging. The selfies I would put in the so-so category, and I would also mention that we're lacking micro SD, and we're also lacking a proper closure of these two panels. There's a bit of a gap left here compared to the Oppo Find N. The external screen is a bit of a bummer. I wanted it to be larger because, as you can see, the keyboard is not very comfy in this format, and I have sausage fingers and it's hard for me to properly type on it. Now, aside from that, we still don't have a proper protection for the main screen. We still have a plastic, which makes it feel a bit fragile. And another aspect here is that there's a bit of oversaturation in the videos I've taken, and even some of the photos, something that I felt when I was testing the camera. Okay, and I think that's about it. And the under display camera doesn't exactly feel like a huge upgrade. I would have been glad to get rid of it and have a properly edge-to-edge screen if possible. Now, in the end, the biggest gain that you have here is the battery life. Now you can finally leave the house and travel for a longer time with a foldable phone. That's your biggest gain so far. 8 grams lighter, a few hours extra in battery, stylus support, S Pen of course, and an improved zoom. Those are the core ideas to take home from the Z Fold 4. In the end, it feels like an iPhone upgrade. As you know, Apple doesn't usually innovate hugely from one generation to the other. This is not a huge jump from the Z Fold 3, but from the Z Fold 2 it may be considered so. I think that the biggest thing that it does is that it doesn't make the Galaxy Note fanboys cry for the lack of a Galaxy Note. To be honest, if Samsung launched the Galaxy Note this fall or summer and this one, I think that people would have rather bought this one for the larger screen estate. With that being said, this has been the review of the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4 and its impressive and huge brightness of the screens, as well as the excellent CPU and battery life. Goodbye.